ATP, or adenosine triphosphate, it's a very important molecule, and we'll refer to it often because it's like currency of sorts. ATP is a molecule that can be used to harvest energy from our food and then allow us to use that energy in our cells. ATP can be considered a nucleic acid like DNA. I don't know that I fully agree with that classification, but I see where they're coming from. Okay. What encourages this classification is that ATP has an adenosine molecule in it. And this here is the adenosine molecule. It also has a sugar. This is a sugar. And then it has three phosphate groups. Those three components they're definitely the three components of the subunits that make DNA and RNA, but ATP is used quite differently than DNA or RNA. Like all molecules, ATP carries energy in its bonds, especially the one bond that binds that last phosphate to the molecule. All day, every second. Now, now, you are harvesting or releasing energy from ATP and from that bond. And then you're recycling it so that you can use it again. So think of it like little rechargeable batteries. You use them and then you have to recharge them. You can use them, recharge them. When ATP is broken down, it becomes ADP, right? Adenosine diphosphate. And it releases energy from that very last bond. When you eat food, that last phosphate group is again glued or bonded back to the ADP, trapping the energy in that bond. Oh. Often in textbooks and in diagrams that I use, energy or ATP is usually noted as this like starburst. So just be careful because in some diagrams, books will use ATP as the starburst, or sometimes they just have very general diagrams and they use the starburst to just indicate energy in general. So, splitting hairs there. But this diagram here is about the cycling of ATP, using it and then recharging it. ATP is a charged molecule, kind of like a coiled spring ready to spring. All I need to do is to tear off that last phosphate group, and then I can spring the spring and have the energy that it holds. When I tear off this group, ATP becomes ADP, and this would be a catabolic reaction. Right? Because we're breaking down ATP into ADP and here's our phosphate up here. So once we charge the spring, my cells will take the energy from my food and recharge ADP by trapping that energy in the bond, holding that third phosphate group onto the molecule. And this would be an anabolic reaction. And as an anabolic reaction, this consumes energy as the two components are combined in a dehydration reaction. And I forgot to mention over here that this is hydrolysis. Over here with this dehydration reaction, we actually give this a very specific, is that right? We give this a specific word. When you are attaching the third phosphate onto ADP, we can also call this phosphorylation, right? Because energy aside, it is the attachment of a phosphate group to the ADP. So this cycling, it continues on and on and on and on and on. And because this is always happening, you don't you don't really store lots of ATP. It's kind of a short-lived molecule, and you really only have a 5-minute supply. So the process that takes energy from your food and traps it into ADP is called cellular respiration. Do not be fooled by the term respiration. It doesn't mean breathing. It means the exchange of gases. And what we're doing is we are exchanging oxygen. This is our molecular oxygen, and we're exchanging it for carbon dioxide. In addition, we are also exchanging glucose for water. Your cells need a constant supply of glucose and oxygen to continually make the ATP that is required for your heart to pump blood through your blood vessels, your diaphragm to contract for breathing, and so many other functions that just help you live. So what I have here in this picture, this bean down here, this is a mitochondria. These are like little ATP making factories. They take in glucose and oxygen, and then they poop out carbon dioxide and water and ATP. As indicated here, one glucose molecule and one oxygen molecule can yield about 30 ATP molecules. Do your cells have ways other than cellular respiration to make ATP? Yes. Yes, but not without a price, making cellular respiration their preference. There are forms of anaerobic respiration that can be employed, but most of them make some sort of acidic substance as a byproduct. So, although we are finding that muscle cramping after working out can be due to many things, for example, a potassium imbalance, there are theories that indicate that the lactic acid generated from anaerobic respiration causes cramping associated with muscle soreness. Now, this would only happen if you pushed yourself too hard in exercising to the point where your breathing wasn't actually bringing in enough oxygen. At that point, your body would switch over to another way to make ATP, but again, it would come at a price of having some acidic byproduct.